nations. There's been a Security Council resolution, sanctions too, all aimed at Libya, and all arguably not having much of an impact yet. Yes, the international community is speaking loudly and for the most part with a united voice. But the violence goes on in Libya and Muammar Gaddafi remains as defiant as ever. So what next? Well, the most talked about idea is a no-fly zone over the embattled country, something the United States has said is a distinct possibility.
One of those actions that is under review is a no-fly zone. There are arguments that would favor it, questions that would be raised about it, but it is under active consideration. In the years ahead, Libya could become a peaceful democracy, or it could face protracted civil war, or it could descend into chaos. The stakes are high.
Yeah, they certainly are, but in the end we're dealing with logistics here. What is a no-fly zone? How does it work? Can it work? And if everyone's not in agreement over it, how legal will it be? All things we want to explore, but first it's worth considering this. Imposing any sort of restriction over Libya right now is fraught because it is very much a fragmented country. From town to town, control effectively changes hands. Have a look at the map, you'll see what we mean here. Opposition forces have managed to hold on to the town of Brega, an important centre for oil production. And in nearby AlJazeera, witnesses have reported air attacks and opposition forces there are said to be bracing for a ground attack. So they're a bit up in the air. But other towns have recently been retaken by government forces. They include the mountain town of Gharian, also the city of Sabrata. And anti-government forces, though, they have beaten back attacks on Misrata, also Zawiya and Zintan, which is to the south of the capital, Tripoli. So that's just a reminder before our discussion of this very fluid situation on the ground in Libya and how it would play into what happens or indeed doesn't happen in the air. So let's introduce our guests. In Los Angeles is Marine Lieutenant Colonel Jay Stout. He's a former fighter jet pilot, the author of a book as well about the 1991 Gulf War in Iraq. In Zarzis, which is close to the Tunisian-Libyan border, is Wahid Burshan, a Libyan political analyst and activist. And rounding out our panel in London, Professor Khawar Qureshi, who is a specialist in international law at McNair Chambers. Gentlemen, I thank you all for your time and for joining us on Inside Story. The logistics of this, first of all, and I'm going to start with Lieutenant Colonel Jay Stout in Los Angeles. Let's forget whether this is right or wrong, yes or no, indifferent or otherwise. The actual logistics in a country which is so fragmented at the moment, can a no-fly zone actually work?
Well, actually getting the aircraft into theater over Libya is not too problematic. The aircraft have pretty good range, they move pretty quickly. However, once they're out of fuel, they have to go somewhere. They need to go to a base. At that base, the aircraft need to be maintained. The armaments need to be maintained as well. Those maintainers need to be housed, they need to be fed. Aircraft, again, need to be fueled. It's a big orchestrated effort that's not easily put into place.
But how quickly do you think they could do that, just out of interest?
Certainly within a few days. Aircraft could be gotten there probably right away, but actually getting all the support personnel into place would probably take, again, a few days.
Okay, let's get a quick thought from Wahid Burshan over there in Zarzis in Tunisia near the border. Just your thoughts on this whole idea in the first place, because it seems to be, I will say, the only idea at the moment, or certainly the most prominent idea.
Well, obviously, let me start at the outset and explain how the Libyan people view this. I mean, Libyan people are very, very proud people. Mm-hmm. And instinctively, they feel that they have to do this on their own. This is an internal thing. This is sort of like a house cleaning kind of thing. And obviously, they feel like they could do it and do it themselves. But some of the pragmatists, they look at the situation. They look at the way Gaddafi is clinching to power and fighting back and so on and so forth. They feel that they have to have some assistance, especially for the air coverage and so on. So clearly, Libyan are split about it. They feel that they want to do it themselves. But I would say if the case is made properly, meaning is that it's a clear-cut, well understood what exactly the scope of this no-fly zone and when it ends and so on, and the fact that it's directed to the regime and to empower and assist the Libyan people gain their freedom, I think that it could have it could be possible.
Okay, let's just pause and look at some of the reasoning and the logistics from the United States, at least, behind this idea of the no-fly zone. It comes from the head of US Central Command, who is General James Mattis, and the Republican Senator John McCain. They were both speaking at a Senate hearing on Capitol Hill. Have a quick listen to this.
You would have to remove the air defense capability in order to establish the no-fly zone, so it just no illusions here. It would be a military operation. It wouldn't simply be telling people not to fly airplanes.
The declaration of a no-fly zone to the enemy would be have a significant deterring effect on their desire to fly. I think we know that to be the case.
Jay Stout in Los Angeles, just a quick word from you again on the logistics side of things. Both those men, they seem to be saying, yes, it's a military operation, but yes, it would actually work. It would deter military flights out of Libya at least. My thoughts, and this is very basic thoughts, is that this is something that could be easily defied, especially by a man like Colonel Gaddafi. If he wants to send his planes in the air, he probably will.
He could, but if he puts his planes in the air, those pilots are going to die if a no-fly zone is established. It's interesting to me the recently reported bombing at Brega is a good indicator of the state of the Libyan Air Force. A single jet apparently dropped 2 bombs. Now, normally, aircraft don't go out in single, by themselves. Normally, they go in pairs or in flights of 4 or in bigger packages. So that tells me is that the Libyan Air Force has decayed to a point where they can't get more than 1 or 2 aircraft airborne, or that the pilots aren't willing to fly. But again, it's a good indicator of the state of the Libyan Air Force.
Okay, this is good. We're getting an idea of the logistics behind how it works. I want to look at the legality now. That's why we've got Khawa Qureshi with us from London to talk about, as I say, legality. Am I right in saying that for this to be quote-unquote legal, it will need a UN Security Council resolution, something like, and I believe it was called Operation Deny Flight, which was used in Bosnia back in 1993?
That's certainly the position that's put forward by certain members of the Security Council. There'll be viewers familiar with what happened in Iraq after the intervention in 1990. From 1991 to 2003, the United Kingdom and France set up no-fly zones in the northern and southern sectors of Iraq, principally to protect the Kurds in the north and the Shias in the south. The Russians took the view that this was not permissible. The Security Council resolution authorizing use of force in Iraq, Resolution 688 of December 1990, didn't permit the continuation of combat activities and air patrols by UK and French fighter planes, which were not passive, they were active. Moving forwards, the resolution that was passed by the Security Council on the 26th of February of this year condemns the violation of human rights in Libya, imposes sanctions on the Libyan regime, but doesn't expressly authorize the use of military force, let alone the creation of no-fly zones. So whilst the British Prime Minister, Mr. Cameron, has been very active in promoting this idea, and others have